Empire
City Transmission.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Empire City Transmissions. We are the Empire City Garrison of the 501st Legion, and we're here to talk all things Star Wars. For this episode, I am super excited. We're talking hot takes, unpopular Star Wars opinions. I'm really looking forward to watching Matt and Liam go at it because there's a lot of different opinions. But before we dive into all of that excitement, let's have a little word from our commanding officer, Justin. So, Justin, over to you.
Hey everyone, Justin Weiss, Commanding Officer of the 501st Legion's Empire City Garrison, TB52503. I'm sitting in my backyard on this relatively warm, sunny day, trying to recuperate from an insane weekend that we just had. We were invited back to Eternal Con in Uniondale, New York. This is Long Island's largest convention. It's kind of like a rebirth year, but you know, we were there to support raising money for Cerebral Palsy Nassau. And the kicker of this weekend was both Saturday night and Sunday night. The 501st Legion had been invited to attend and be on stage with the amazing Weird Al Yankovic. Stormtroopers and Darth Vader took the stage for his encore presentation of the song The Saga Begins. That's a parody of American Pie. The entire event was incredible. I personally was on stage at Madison Square Garden, and words cannot describe the 8 minutes of incredibleness that happened. On stage, sold out crowd, Madison Square Garden, a sea of people and cell phone lights. Unbelievable. And then, you know, last night we had another event in Northport, New York. A member of ours, Joe Mantello, lives in Northport, loves Northport. Every year they have this amazing street fair on Main Street. The 501st has taken to the streets in costumes and become a bit of a spectacle. This year, they actually allowed us to set up a tent and to blast a trooper to benefit AHRC. And the line of people was incredible. Went all night long. We were the biggest hit of the entire event. It was hot. It was humid. It was disgusting. But, you know, our troopers stood there and we all, you know, like we were taking turns, you know, 2 in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out for 3.5 hours, getting shot at with Nerf guns. At the end of the night, we raised a little over $400 in less than, 3 hours. Incredible. The men and women of the 501st Legion are among the most generous, kindest, selfless people that I have ever met. I'm proud to walk among. We had a great time. We look forward to everything else we do in the future. So I'm going to sit back. I'm going to relax for a little bit. And this coming weekend, we have the mini-con in Levittown, I believe, actually Hicksville. That also supports Cerebral Palsy Nassau, also created by the 501st. It's a great event. Check it out. I hope to see you there. And Empire City Transmissions, back to you.
Thank you for that, Justin. Matt, you were at the Weird Al event, right? So share the deets. Tell us about it.
It was a cool experience. I didn't dress as a stormtrooper. I was just a handler, but and we did do 2 events. I don't know if Justin had mentioned. Saturday night was Madison Square Garden, which is what he and I were at, and then Sunday we also did Bethel. Well, we is the ECG, right? I wasn't there. Bethel, New York, right near the site of the original Woodstock. But interesting, right? Weird Al playing Woodstock, basically. But MSG was cool. I mean, it was a lot of waiting around. We got there at like 5:30, and his stage manager, whoever it was, or point of contact there, didn't even come get us until definitely after 10:30, probably closer to 11. So, and
hurry up and wait.
It was a lot of hurry up and wait, but it was fun. I mean, I had some of the most fun I've had with the ECG in a while, just in that waiting room, as awful as that wait sounds. And it was tedious, but they fed us, they showed us the routine at once, and they kind of said, all right, you guys are on your own, watch the videos, like figure it out. And so the troopers practiced, and we took videos to show them what they look like and walked them through it. And then, we helped them to the stage, get on stage. It was crazy. I've trooped Madison Square Garden before. I've done a Knicks game. It was one of my first troops, but it was nothing like this. Like, all the lights were dark. Like Justin mentioned, everybody's got their cell phone lights out. Like it had to have been, I would assume, somewhere in the vicinity of 20,000 people.
It's wild.
And all the handlers are just on the side of the stage. So we got a nice, like, kind of side view angle of Weird Al and his bass player and the backup singers and all the troopers dancing and stuff. And I'm sure we'll be if we haven't already, I'm sure there'll be plenty of video and pictures posted for the social media. But
yeah, I have the video picked out what we're going to share. So.
Of course. No, it was a wild experience. Even just as a handler, it was cool to see all the behind the scenes stuff of a big production like that. Definitely a memorable one for sure.
It sounds absolutely amazing. So, and Liam, you said you were at the Northport Family Fun Night, which is like wild that you guys raised so much money. That's like Comic-Con levels of busy, raising that much money in such a short period of time. I'm sure you were absolutely melting too. Like, it's been that troop is always super humid and so much fun, but like, we melt out there.
Melting is an understatement. Yeah, no, super humid, and it's right on the water too, right? So that that doesn't help with the humidity.
That just adds to it.
Yeah, but $400 in 3 hours,
Crazy.
And that was Blaster Trooper, so it's comes in $5 increments, so it's $5 for 5 shots, and the money went to AHRC, I believe. Mm-hmm. And there's every once in a while you just get a troop where we raise a ridiculous amount of money out of nowhere. Like, it was a Brick Fest last year, I think. And the Blaster Trooper line just did not stop, and we didn't expect that either. And it was like, we had some really great people at the table helping out. And they are the unsung heroes, because they're the only reasons that the line is able to keep moving. So shout out to them just as much as the troopers that were going back and forth. But yeah, it was great. And there were so many people there who were loading Nerf guns nonstop. I'm like, guys, your fingers have to have hurt from all the just putting the darts in and then cocking it and all that. But it was a great night. Yeah. That's very awesome. Hot, but fun.
Yeah. For any viewers who don't know, Blaster Troopers are sort of our biggest fundraiser, where we basically give kids Nerf guns, let them shoot at the stormtroopers or anybody in armor, really. TIE pilots. If your face is covered, you're up for grabs. So you did it in your Revan costume, right? I mean, your face is covered, so
yeah,
they just threw you to the wolves.
I did Blaster Trooper for a little bit. I want to say, like, honestly, only 10-20 minutes before someone else could step in, because they want troopers to do it usually.
Yeah.
And that was my first time doing Blaster Trooper, actually. Yeah. Most of the time I was just, because they usually want no-name characters to do it. Yeah. Or full armor, TIE pilots, stormtroopers, something like that. So I mostly just walked the street, got strange looks. I think 4 people called me Vader, 3 people called me Kylo. I'm Revan, by the way, for context. So yeah, that was great fun. Handed out some cards. It depends on how, I think I've said it here before, but it depends on how excited they are. If someone is really excited, like, oh my gosh, Kylo Ren, I love you, I'm like, yeah, I'm Kylo Ren. And if they're just like, hey, are you Kylo Ren? Sometimes they'd be like, no, actually this guy you've never heard of, but that's cool. So this is a very fun night. Yeah, A for effort. There you go.
Oh, another amazing event. And then just to real quick highlight the CP Nassau Sci-Fi Minicon, which is happening this Saturday, the 19th. That was started by our very own Chris Fian. He used to be our CO, and he put this whole thing together, and it's been going for a couple of years now. And that raises money for CP-NASA, of course. And that company, if you haven't heard of them, they are a charity that provides assistance to individuals with developmental disabilities by providing programs for children and adults, residential programs. They also have a medical and a primary care clinic, which I did not know about, which I think that's really amazing. So if you have the opportunity to go, please come on down. We're doing Blaster Trooper for that too, right? So if you've never gotten to experience it, it's a whole lot of fun. I might argue it's more fun for the adults than it is for the kids.
We're raffling a Darth Vader also, that 7-foot Darth Vader decoration that Home Depot sold last year. Yeah.
It makes a great decoration for your front porch, for family members' front porches, if you want to just scare them and plop them out in front of their front door. Always an option. But again, all of the proceeds will go to CP-NASA. Oh, and Long Island Ghostbusters will be there. They're raffling off a Proton Pack. So if Darth Vader isn't your thing, Ghostbusters is, you can win a Proton Pack.
Or if Darth Vader isn't your thing and Ghostbusters is, just disconnect now.
Yeah, or just don't watch it.
That little red X on the top right of your screen because you're in the wrong place probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine anybody watching this wouldn't want a 7-foot Darth Vader.
I can't imagine anybody watching this. I would just leave it at that.
Let's start there. Is anybody watching?
Boost the morale.
Yeah. Is anybody here? Please come get our Darth Vader.
So what we've done here, and we did allude to this earlier, I think Andrea mentioned it, is we all have pre-prepared 4 Star Wars hot takes. For those of you, like probably our commander, Justin, who doesn't really know what a hot take is, it's an unpopular opinion, right? Something you feel, right, that other people aren't necessarily going to agree with. We chose 4. We're only going to share 3. The idea was in case Liam or Andrea were to pick one of mine, I have another fallback one, right? We've predetermined orders. We haven't shared them in advance, so everyone here is going to have some time to blind react to each other's hot takes. With the order we rolled, it was me, you, Liam, and then Andrea. So I could start. We're going to need somebody to get really quick with the bleep button here, because I think this is going to go hot between Liam and I. You're going to have to filter out some expletives, but
that's on Liam. He's got to edit all of this, so he's going to have one hell of a time starting with that.
All right. Anakin's turn to the dark side in Revenge of the Sith feels entirely rushed and not earned. Yep. And so let me say, before we even discuss this was difficult for me because those of you who know me, obviously you two know, I like to just be a contrarian and say things I don't really think or feel just to get a reaction out of people. So I had to sit down and actually think about things I actually believed about Star Wars. I know Liam's shocked, right? Because I had to defend these points, right? Instead of just being a troll. So that's my first one. Do you want me to elaborate as to why I think that, or do you just want to poke holes in it immediately? Go ahead, whatever you want to do.
No, go for it. Let's hear the argument, because I'm kind of on you with that, but I have an asterisk. So you go first.
Okay. So now, obviously, hindsight is 2020, and we have the Clone Wars animated series, which makes his fall feel a lot more earned. It's still, I would say, not great, but much better, right, than just what the movies portrays. And I know everyone's going to say, okay, but there was the Sand People, right? He killed all the Tuskens, not just the men, but the women and children too, right? Okay, great. Very evil. Not a thing we'd expect Jedi to do, of course. But presumably, and just speaking in the context of the movies, right, for now, he went through the whole Clone Wars. He's clearly acquitted himself well in the Clone Wars. He comes back in Revenge of the Sith as a Jedi Knight, no longer a Padawan. So he's been doing the right thing, or at least as far as anybody has known. He's been doing the right thing ever since. And even at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, he clearly demonstrates that he knows right from wrong. Okay, Palpatine wants him to execute unarmed, literally unarmed, right, Dooku. And he says, I shouldn't, it's not the Jedi way. And of course he does it, we know. And it's easy to point to that as an indicator that he was continuing to fall to the dark side. But my counterpoint to that is, Palpatine, at this point, the Jedi are totally militarized. right? Not in accordance with what like the Jedi tradition, right? But like they're soldiers now, they're generals. Like that's what's happened to them for the previous 3 years leading up to this moment. And Palpatine is the Supreme Chancellor, right? Mm-hmm. At that point, and your superior gave you an order on the battlefield, said, "Hey, we can't keep this guy alive. He's too dangerous. Kill him." And he follows an order. Mm-hmm. You know, and all throughout that rescue scene, he goes back to save Obi-Wan. Like his fate's gonna be the same as ours, so on and so forth. And like he continues to be a hero through the whole movie. So really, the only thing that you have as a knock against him in his like pristine Jedi-ness is the Tusken Raider incident 3 years earlier. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh crap! My wife, I have these visions, right?" Like he just goes and kills a bunch of kids. I just think, I don't think, you know, I would have totally restructured the prequel trilogy. That's for another day. Like I don't think that the time spent on each thing, when you think that the second movie is just a love story and doesn't really do anything to further the plot really at all. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that they do a good job of kind of priming you as the audience in 1999 to 2005. You know that he's going to turn. We all know, obviously, but.
I start. I don't know. You said that Anakin knows right from wrong, and I feel like the more accurate thing would be Anakin knows what the Jedi tell him to do versus what the Jedi tell him not to do.
Sure.
And the Jedi aren't always right by the time of the prequel trilogy. And so killing Dooku is the most practical thing to do, because how are you going to capture a Sith Lord? Like, you could put him in one of those things that Ahsoka put Maul in, but that was like the last one ever because Satine had them all. Anyway, the Jedi didn't have one of those. And that's what they used to capture like Force sensitives, right? I don't know how else they would have escorted him.
Well, how did they capture Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones?
Did they ever say?
He's just in some sort of stasis field. It's like the ray shields on the Invisible Hand. I mean, they just have this technology apparently that Jedi
did he
can't
get knocked
do anything
out though?
No.
Like what happened? I don't remember what had that.
Capture, sure. Okay, I see your point.
Yeah, like how can they, bring him into to Coruscant or wherever? So sparing him was the Jedi way. But throughout, I don't know. Did we say we're including the Clone Wars or no?
I mean, I think it's easy to make this argument that it's better with the Clone Wars. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But
okay,
that's exactly what I was going to say. That was my.
But I would still say,
I fully agree. The only reason why his downfall makes a little bit more sense is because of Clone Wars. Like once I watched all of that, I was like, oh, okay, okay, I get it now. But
like, let me ask
movies, it doesn't make sense.
Open question to the both of you. Like, what specific things in the Clone Wars do you point to that make you feel like it makes more sense? Like, we see a little bit of it with the jealousy with Clovis, right? Was that his name? Mm-hmm. Padme's ex-boyfriend or whatever. Like, okay, but like, what else would you point to even in the animated series?
Ahsoka being kicked out of the Order without being given an actual trial. She was given a trial, but it was like
sure,
a sham trial.
Yeah. That's fair. I agree with that.
Yeah. I just noticed, I think, in like his personality, you would see like slowly just kind of declining. I'll say. I don't know. That's kind of how I noticed it. Like he would snap quicker. He would get like more frustrated, like very easily. Like you could just see him like his frustration really building and boiling over. So.
In season 7, he kills Admiral Trench, the spider-looking guy. He didn't have to, but he was just angry at him for killing so many of his clones and making his life difficult. It's like if Batman just snapped and killed the Joker one day, and it's like, I'm getting this over with. It's kind of like that. If you could definitely make the argument that it was very abrupt, the change from season 7 of the Clone Wars to Revenge of the Sith. It almost feels like a little bit of a different character, and I would definitely agree there. But I think that his fall, while it could have been handled smoother, I don't think it was like unrealistic. I would say that Anakin is loyal to a fault. He's like the definition of loyal to a fault. And so he'll do like whatever he has to do to be loyal to the people he loved. But he kind of destroyed everything in the process of trying to be loyal to first the Jedi, which kind of, just squished him until he broke, and then Padme and Obi-Wan.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a fair character analysis, I'd say. Yeah. All right. That was a long one. No. So now we're gonna go to Liam. He gets to do his first. Yeah.
Oh boy. Which one do I pick? I'll pick a silly one. I don't like sand was a perfectly normal line. It just didn't fit in that moment.
So, Liam, are you currently without a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever in between?
But like I said, it didn't fit in the moment. It's not like a flirtatious like.
I was gonna say now we know why. Got this senator in this beautiful gown with like maybe a little bit of revealingness going to it. Yeah. It's like, oh, I don't like sand.
So. It's not a great opener, and I wouldn't use it. That said,
nobody likes sand. Yeah, maybe he was trying to start a conversation. I don't know.
I think it's a reasonable. So it could have fit in the movie at any other point. It's just like Lucas tried to throw it in there to show Anakin being like, "Oh, I hate Tatooine," but it's like, okay, him saying "I don't like sand" is like, okay, he doesn't like sands because he doesn't like Tatooine, and sand reminds him of Tatooine. But when Padme's like, "We used to play in the sands here, and it was so fun," he's like, I don't like sand. Like, yeah, it feels really weird in that moment, but it could have been somewhere else, and people wouldn't have bat an eye.
It's like, all right, damn, buzzkill, right? Where would you put it? If you can move the I don't like sand line to anywhere else in Attack of the Clones, where would you put it?
I feel like that. I feel like if they had a longer conversation. Remember when he cut the weird pear thing and like floated over the table? If they had like, yes. If they had like a more normal conversation there, where she asked him what it was like, and she was like, I don't know. It could have been inserted into another conversation regularly, maybe reformatted or something. But
maybe
it's not
deleted scene when he meets her family. They'd be like, "Oh, you're from Tatooine." And you'd be like, "Yes," and
that came up. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, you're from Tatooine. You must like sand. Like.
Exactly.
Actually, I don't.
Nope.
I think that line's ridiculous, but in the confines of your hot take, it could fit somewhere else. I understand what it's doing for the character. I totally agree with you. It's just he's bad at flirting, I suppose, is what we're left with.
All right,
All right, Andrew. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So my first is Ezra sucks. I hate Ezra. I hate his character. I can't stand him. He's worthless. And the one and only time it's like, wow, maybe you are kind of a decent person is the last episode when he sacrifices himself. That's my hot take. Ezra sucks.
I'm gonna probably have to put I don't love Ezra. He's not a favorite of mine. But one, do we think that any part of this is just because when you saw Rebels, you were in your mid to late 20s, I assume?
I was actually pretty recently when I joined the 501st was when I officially watched everything.
So you're in your 30s and you watch Rebels, and Ezra's made for 7-year-olds.
Yeah, and because I'm watching it what a juvenile, he's so selfish, he's acts like a child, and
that was Clone Wars too, though, right? Go back and rewatch the first arc of Clone Wars. I mean, it ages with the audience. I mean, if you go back and watch it in your 30s, which I also did, to be fair, I didn't watch all of the Clone Wars or Rebels until I was in my 30s, and it was rough in the beginning for sure.
I'm rewatching it right now, and it's not easy. I think
he's not an awful person though, because you said the one time he seems like he's not an awful person is just when he sacrifices himself at the end.
I just feel like he's
you don't think there's any other moments?
Yeah, there's no other moment where there's and I'm gonna make this argument for one of my other hot takes too, but character development is something that I just really enjoy, and I feel like he does not evolve. He doesn't learn. He's just the same bratty kid, and him and Sabine just do whatever they want. And then when get ready to bleep this, when it hits the fan, they're like, oh, oops, and then just turn around and do it again until the last episode. And I'm like, well, Sabine grows up a little bit more when she goes back to Mandalore and tries to reunite the clans. But I feel like he just doesn't grow up. There's nothing until I said that the very last episode. So I don't like him.
How do you feel about Ezra and Ahsoka?
That's what I was going to ask too. Yeah.
When I saw him there, I was like, I thought you were gone. I was not happy about it. But that's like another one of my hot takes is actually from Ahsoka, but I'll save that one for our next round.
I don't know if I mean, I don't feel as strongly against him as you do, obviously. So in that sense, I think it's a hot take, and obviously there are people who love Ezra, but I think the standout character for most people in Rebels is probably Kanan and Hera.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think I don't know. Yeah, I can't fully disagree with you. I mean, I liked seeing him in Ahsoka though. Like more, he clearly figured it out. Like all the things that you're pointing to, that he's immature, he's juvenile, right? Like, oh, he's a pain in the butt, whatever. Like, he's had some time to reflect and grow, right? In the intervening 10 years or whatever it's been. And you see in his force mastery, right? He doesn't even need a lightsaber, right, to fight and so on. And it's just very at peace. It just seems. But yeah, I mean, in the cartoon, I can't argue too much there.
I can see what you're saying in the beginning. I feel like I felt that way with Omega a little bit. I think everybody did, where she would just like, Hunter would be like, stay on the ship. And she'd be like, okay. And then she'd just run off and like fall in a hole or quicksand or something. I don't know. And they'd be like, we have to find Omega.
And it's like the quintessential wolf and cub that Disney loves to tell and Star Wars loves to tell. The kid has to get the wolf in trouble, right, to further the plot. So
and Ezra is sort of like that a little bit. So I wasn't that young when Rebels came out. I was younger when Clone Wars came out. So I was more the audience for that, not so much for Rebels. But I never like hated his character with a passion. He was always sort of like, he's just there.
Yeah, I agree. Felt the same way.
All right. Round 2?
All right, let's do it. Okay, so this one is going to get some hate. Maybe not from you all, but all right.
No, I don't know.
Internet.
I'm not saying you're going to like it. I'm just saying you're a relatively level-headed guy. So, all right. So this one is Luke's characterization in The Last Jedi makes perfect sense.
Oh, we talked about this before.
Yeah. What do you mean? Elaborate.
Okay, so look, I mean, I don't want to feed too much fuel to the trolls and the fandom menace and all that, right? But like a lot of what people said was like, and including Mark Hamill, was that I don't know who that guy was, right? He said like that was Jake Skywalker or something. I think he said like when he was like being interviewed about the controversy around his character arc in The Last Jedi, and people, things on the internet people were saying was there's no way he would have ran away and hid on some island and isolated himself and cut himself off from the Force and abandoned his friends, and he wasn't particularly warm to C-3PO in the movie and R2-D2 and Chewie and so on, right? And it's just that people who grew up reading the Legends continuity where Luke Skywalker just becomes kind of this Giga Chad who just becomes increasingly more like a Force god and can just do anything, just ultimately competent. We're obviously shocked to see that this older kind of over the hill Jedi who had given up and just completely removed himself from all of the galactic events. And I don't know if that was the best choice for the story. What I'm going to tell you is that I buy it hook, line, and sinker. I think it makes perfect sense for who we see Luke to be in canon. I mean, obviously, I can't account for the Legends books. Disney threw them away. They're not relevant to The Last Jedi here, right? All throughout the original trilogy, Luke consistently doesn't trust his friends, doesn't trust his mentor, doesn't trust the Force. He's a whiny little baby all the time, right? Like when we see him, like he's 19 years old and he's making like the meme, right? Like he's making vroom vroom noises with his little toy spaceship in his aunt and uncle's basement, like he's meanwhile.
I'm not much better.
Right. I do the same stuff. I'm twice his age, but meanwhile,
grow up.
Meanwhile, his sister is, a member of the Junior Senate and doing all this stuff on a galactic. He didn't have the opportunity to. I get that, but and he's a whiner the whole time. Like he just lost his karate teacher on the Death Star that he had known for like 24 hours, and Leia is comforting him. Mm. Right? Like, Leia just lost her entire planet, her family, everything that she knew, and she was forced to watch it happen, right? Albeit from a distance. And she's comforting him. You know, Luke Skywalker was never the hero of the original trilogy. It was always Leia, with bits of Luke and Han sprinkled in, maybe, sure, and Lando, of course, but it's always been Leia. And I just think, like, he has two mentors, right, throughout the movies, and one of which is Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had been in exile for 19 years, right, prior to him meeting Luke, or meeting Luke as an adult anyway, because he gave up, because he left. Crap, we screwed this up. I couldn't kill, didn't kill Anakin, I guess. And Yoda did the same thing, right? Yoda had just been totally taken out of all of those events for 21 years, 22 years, until Luke kind of crash lands in his swamp. I failed to kill the Emperor. That's it. I'm just not going to do anything for decades. People are just being killed and persecuted, but I can't. I'm living with my own shame in exile on these other planets, and I think that's the mentors and those lessons he had. Those are the people that he's modeling himself after. And so to think that he couldn't, it's just impossible that he couldn't have pulled himself out of that hole when Grand Master Yoda, who had lived 900 years, right? Like, couldn't. I don't think it's that crazy. Yeah.
Well, I guess, I mean, they went into hiding for different reasons. So Yoda went into hiding with the intention of teaching someone else again, just knowing that he would have been useless in the fight and drawn the Empire's attention to anybody, I guess, whoever he was with. I think most of what you talked about Luke Skywalker doing was him at his lows or in the very beginning of the movie. But by the end of his movie, when he's had his character arc and has become a different person, he's sort of spared his father, who has killed billions, and just from what we see in Episode 8, how he almost killed Ben or whatever because he had like bad dreams. It doesn't seem like the same. It doesn't seem like the same character. It's like this dude witnessed his father kill so many people, but believed, even against the odds, even with everyone telling him that his father can't be redeemed, that his father could be redeemed, and he did redeem his father in the end. Or his father redeemed him. Someone was redeemed. There was some redemption happening. And but with his nephew, he's just like, nope, this kid is too far gone. Well, he's still a Jedi, and he's still under his roof and everything. So for that to happen and then to go into hiding and exile, I suppose it's reasonable to believe that his character could be like that, having been in exile for so long. But I think that the event that started that was like not something that Luke would do.
That's fair. I could get behind that. My one counterpoint would just be like, okay, so we see, and I hear you on the beginning of the trilogy and his low points and so on, but at the end, right, of Return of the Jedi, like he is that guy sort of that we expect to see in the Legends continuity, right? But could that not have just been one exceptional moment, like just one moment of clarity, of bravery, of just exceptionalism that maybe he didn't have in him otherwise? Like he just reached a level that he just couldn't ever attain again after that.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I think people just like to see consistency in characters. I
guess that's boring. Is it like Andrea said? Like, I mean, just to think like I've reached this level and I couldn't possibly ever falter. That's not development. That's just you're kind of a one note, one trick pony there.
Yeah, well, it's boring, but also people, as we saw in The Last Jedi, don't like to be told that their characters aren't the way that they think they are. So while it might be boring, you also don't want like the shock value of like, oh, surprise, your favorite character actually sucks and he's drinking green milk from an alien's udder. Yeah, so I see what you're saying though.
Yeah.
Andrew, anything for you on this one?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree. I feel like it makes a lot of sense. Like you said, both of his mentors were both hermits. So of course you would expect him to follow a similar path of, if something goes wrong, then it's my job to isolate myself and to reflect and to figure out what I did wrong so that I don't do it again, or so I don't pollute the force, I guess, So, oh, I agree with you. I feel like it didn't seem completely out of context to me, especially as you learn the story. And I think too, to lose his faith in the Force, with Kylo, and then the added layer of it being his nephew, I think it brings, you bring back the whole, his dad, his own dad faltered to the dark side, and he's seeing it in another family member. And, I don't know, I feel like it's a lot, and I feel like it makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
I agree. Okay.
Anything more on this, or Liam, you want to share your second?
Sure. I'm going to, I don't know how much of a hot take this is, but among the people that I know it is, the Jedi weren't weak for not noticing Sidious, for not noticing that Palpatine is Sidious. Because I hear a lot of people say, he was right under their noses, how did they not notice it? And the Jedi knew that it was someone in the Emperor's inner circle, or the Supreme Chancellor at that time. They thought maybe that it was him, like it was brought up once or twice, if I remember correctly, but it was never like, it's definitely him. They thought it was, Matt, you'll know his name, the blue guy,
Masamita.
Like they thought it was him briefly, but also he was like clouding their judgment, right? And there was like plenty of stuff at play here. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I've heard a lot of people just say that the Jedi are weak.
I think, the Jedi were definitely weakened for sure, right? Just in general. I think what we see now in like more recent media, especially, is the Jedi, like Mace Windu is the poster boy of this. We're becoming more form over function, right? And where it was important to adhere to rules that didn't necessarily add to the philosophy or anything of the Force or the Jedi, just because that was the tradition, and that was just it was very narrow and dogmatic, like they say, right? And then you have the added piece where the Jedi Temple in Coruscant had a Sith shrine in the basement, right at the heart of it, that was supposed to be corrupting and helping to conceal.
Is that canon still?
Yeah, it is canon. Yes.
Okay.
They have recanonized that in a few. Most recently in a High Republic book, for sure. I don't think that they're weak. Like you say, there's just 1,000-year-old machinations of the Sith kind of at play here, and you need to have a convincing bad guy, right? He couldn't just be like. Again, it goes back to Luke being a Giga Chad, though. It's like, oh, if Yoda just knew everything, like you wouldn't have a story. It wouldn't be interesting, Like if he was perfect all the time, yeah.
Perfect, I am.
Again, I agree with that too. I don't think they were weak. The whole point of the dark side is that like you can't see what's going on in there, right? So, and they say all the time, clouded his future is, or whatever that line is that it says. But they can't see everything. They can't see all. As wise and knowing as they are, there's still humanity in them, which is imperfect, and there's still so many other factors at play. I think it would be impossible for them to see, especially something that's so close. You can't focus on something that's right here. That's why you don't see things that are right under your nose. So I agree.
Family, and we agree with everything you say so far.
Not so much of a hot take. We're all on board. All right.
Yeah, I talked to my family about this a few times before, and they were like, the Jedi are so weak. And I was like, no. I don't know. I figured maybe it was more common, but all right.
Well, yeah.
I'll let them know that they have a hot take.
They're fallible, is I think really the more accurate description. Yeah. They're not weak. Yeah.
Weakened for sure.
Yeah.
This isn't my hot take, but just to kind of talk about that they're fallible. I think that's one thing I really liked about oh gosh, what's the name of that show that they just canceled? What? The Acolyte.
The Acolyte.
Yeah,
I knew you were going to say it. Let's go. I'll talk about The Acolyte. Liam loved it.
I mean, this isn't my hot take, but I just to, again, kind of call back to that. I really liked seeing the Jedi as just another political pawn, like hiding and scheming and doing all of the things that dirty politicians do. You know, I liked seeing that side of the Jedi. Not that they're these constant perfect beings who know all and are only good and pure and light and all this. Yeah. I liked seeing them do some like mess up.
What that era is doing, right? It's trying to explain how you go from these like perfect beings, like the Jedi of yesteryear, right, to the Mace Windu's of the world, right? And like you say, they start to become corrupt and politicized, and I thought it was cool. I don't like the idea of like an infallible good guy that just always makes the right choice and could do everything. Like I thought The Acolyte, not the best show. I mean, I could complain about it, but I liked that part about it for sure.
All right. Ready for
there we go. We just got an extra hot take. Liam's not even going to land on The Acolyte. He's like, no.
I don't want this to go on forever.
All right, well, if we have time at the end, we can delve into The Acolyte a little bit more. But my next hot take would be that I don't think Sabine should be Ahsoka's Padawan. I think that doesn't make sense at all. All right. Here's my arguments. I had to write these down. I have notes here. Okay. So first is that she's a Mandalorian. She makes it clear, like her whole like story arc is like she's a Mandalorian. And then, like I mentioned before, like she goes back and like rejoins the leadership and joins her family and tries to unite the clan. So it's like that's her story, and I feel like that's enough. Kanan had already tried like training her with a Darksaber, and that was a huge failure. So like another reason why I don't think she should be a Jedi. Not everybody has to be a Jedi. Like I don't know why Disney is just like, oh, are you a main character? Here's a lightsaber. And I don't think it makes sense for Ahsoka's character because the whole system failed her. You know, the Jedi, you know, they didn't even give her, like we mentioned before, they didn't give her a failed trial. She got exiled and she went rogue. So why would she perpetuate a failed system by getting like teaching a Padawan? It doesn't make sense.
I mean, maybe she thought she could do it better than the Jedi. I don't know. I don't like that they made Sabine force sensitive. Or, I mean, she's not even, right? I still don't know what happened there. That's my biggest problem with this.
It seems like they're really trying to, like, force it. Like, she's really trying, like, she's really working and, like, there's this whole, like, it doesn't seem like she really wants to. She doesn't have the ability. She's clearly, like, frustrated with it. Ahsoka's, like, pushing her to, like, suck it up and use the force. And, it doesn't make sense. It's like a puzzle piece that's not fitting in.
I wish I could just suck it up and use the Force. Like, all right,
yeah, me
no
too.
emotions. Like, I can move things with my mind. Sure, all right, whatever.
That'd be awesome if it were that easy.
But I don't know. I never really thought about that before. She wouldn't be the first Mandalorian Jedi. I think it'd kind of be cool to have another Mandalorian Jedi. But I see what you're saying. I think it was a little bit. It didn't feel forced to make Sabine a Jedi, but it didn't feel necessary either. If that makes any sense. I didn't have a problem with it when I was watching the show, but what about you, Matt?
I actually mostly agree with what both of you were saying. I didn't have a problem with it when I watched it. I also agree it wasn't necessary, right? And Disney does seem to want to make everybody force sensitive. Obviously, she's significantly less force sensitive than other people, right? Huyang says she's like the worst Padawan he's ever seen in 25,000 years or whatever he says, right? Like, so, I mean, you know, I kind of like this is going to touch on my last hot take here, but I kind of like the idea that the Force is something everybody could potentially tap into. And I'm not saying that, well, let's just throw a plug for Max Rebo because I haven't talked about him yet today. Like, I'm not saying that Max Rebo should become a Jedi Master or a Sith Lord and he should be able to do incredible feats with the Force. Like, I'm not saying every single person, but like, I like the idea that it's supposed to surround everybody and be in all of us. We all have M count, right? Like the idea that with enough training that maybe you could have some limited success with manipulating the Force. I don't actually have a problem with that. So yeah, I mean, I guess I mostly agree. I think the only thing, the only thing I disagree with that you said, Andrea, is, like Ahsoka was failed by the Jedi Order. And so why would she try to perpetuate that system? But I think that's an argument to not create another Jedi Order, not an argument against creating more Jedi or training more light side Force users, if you want to use a less descript, term for it. If we say that Jedi are just the followers of this particular code, right? Fine. It's obviously a skill that you want to pass on. It's saved the galaxy God knows how many times at that point, and they're a dying breed. They've been hunted to extinction. So if anybody has any propensity for the Force whatsoever, and obviously Sabine's is very low, like I think that they could use all the help they can get. And we'll see what's to come, right, in the future of the Mandoverse here. But obviously they're building up to some big endgame level threat is what they claim, right? So, even if Sabine is the crappiest Jedi of all time, right, it's better than no Jedi.
At least she's a Jedi.
Yeah, and
I can see that.
And I think Ahsoka, like Qui-Gon, are probably two of the best Jedi in terms of like maybe really understanding the point and not being so form over function, like I would say Mace Windu is. And Ahsoka has an opportunity to right the wrongs where the Jedi had steered themselves wrong towards the end. So just my 2 cents.
So did Luke.
Yeah, but he screwed up, so whatever. That's why we got Ahsoka. I mean, just like we needed Leia to save Luke, we need Ahsoka to save his order. Whatever. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Girl's really coming through, though. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, last round 3?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's hear it, Matt.
Okay, so we've touched on this already. I think the Force is the absolute worst part of Star Wars.
Really?
I think the mysticism and the Force and everything that surrounds it, and I think this is, if we left it at a New Hope level understanding of the Force, I'd have no problem with it. Like, I don't, the Space Wizard thing doesn't necessarily appeal to me. Like, I think the idea of just guerrilla freedom fighters fighting a war against a tyrannical government, that's good enough for me. Like, I'm happy. But what makes Star Wars unique, obviously, is the Force. It's that extra flavor of science fantasy, right, that makes Star Wars what it is. And if we left our understanding of the Force no greater than what it was after A New Hope, I'd be okay with it. But I think every movie since then, and every book and every comic that has covered trying to have trying to make the Force feel more tangible or more understandable and flesh out the philosophy and how it works and stuff like that, I think it just makes it muddier. And I think they've done an awful job of making it I don't think the lore that they've added makes it better. I think it's subtractive. Things I can point to are the midichlorian count. I mean, that thing is stupid. I'm sorry. I don't think it's the most awful thing, but it's a mystical force that's omnipresent in the galaxy, and there's a religion based around it, multiple religions, right, based around it. Why do we have to try to make a biochemical argument as to how it works?
Yeah, why can't it making science out of magic?
Why can't it just be a religion? Why can't it just be this magical force that has a will and whatever? Great, cool, good enough. And I think, I think, yeah. I mean, I'll hang my hat there. I don't think it adds all of the succeeding explanations of the forces. I think they're boring. I'm somebody who is a classics major. I took philosophy classes. I liked them. I did well in them. I enjoyed them. But if we have to believe that the target audience for Star Wars is children, how many children are sitting there listening to some old man talk about some boring nonsense that they can't possibly begin to understand because George Lucas doesn't understand it, so he can't make you understand it. In between laser fights, it's no. I mean.
It's a big straw man. Well, I have many things to say to you, Matt.
That's why I saved this one for last, given the audience. Yeah. So.
I mean, Lucas says from the beginning. Obi-Wan says, that the Force surrounds us, binds us, penetrates us, holds the galaxy together, that implies that it's inside of us somehow in one way or another. So saying that, you can take that at like a metaphorical level and say, okay, it's inside us, but it's not really, but kind of is. But it's also not a stretch to say, yeah, the Force is literally inside us in a way, or that these things are inside us that let us manipulate the Force. The Force is a mystery, and I don't think that adding more powers or whatever to it will make it less of a mystery, because it's magic, and it's not real, and for that reason, it will always remain a mystery. It's my favorite part of Star Wars, so you see where one of my favorite, probably my favorite Clone Wars arc is the Mortis Gods.
That could be a hot take by itself, Liam.
Well, all right, shush. Yeah.
I should have made popcorn. Save for this one.
We could have a whole thing about this. No, I think it's I just find it very interesting. I'm reading Dune right now, and Matt, go read Dune if you want Star Wars without the Force, without the lightsabers and the flashy swords. There's more philosophy there. I love philosophy too. I was a philosophy minor, but there's so many other sci-fi. You have Star Wars, you take away the Jedi, you take away the Force. Maybe not the Jedi entirely, but the prequel idea of the Jedi, and you just have sci-fi.
Or if you take out the Jedi entirely, you have Andor and Rogue One, and you're good. Like you're solid.
Well, are you?
Yeah.
Are
solid.
you? No.
Oh, God, see, that hurts to hear.
One of my hot takes was that Solo is better than Rogue One, but I removed that one.
Damn right you did. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
I really like it.
I just enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead, Liam. You're on a roll. Sorry.
What about you, Andrea?
So I can kind of understand that while they try to make the Force sort of like this like pivotal thing within Star Wars, it really isn't. I think it's what makes Star Wars its own, makes it different in terms of like a story, different from something like Dune, is because they have the Force and lightsabers and pew pew and all that fun stuff. But coming from, I'm an acupuncturist, and so, the theories of like Buddhism and yin and yang and qi and all of that is all very integrated within acupuncture. And so from that perspective, the Force makes a lot of sense to me, because the manipulation of the Force is the same as manipulating qi, right? It's like qi is translated as energy, but only because we don't have a better description for it within English. And qi is very much like the Force. It's in everything. It's what moves everything. It's what powers life. And so I think, coming from that sort of deeper understanding, the Force turns into, like I understand why there's like this religion and this following that's behind it. And then another thing I sort of liked about the Acolyte was I think they were starting to touch upon, where those religions and things really sort of came from and how that all developed. And I was really interested to see more of that. So, but I totally get that. Like you could still have a really good story without the Force being involved. So I see. I get both.
I just think like, the story that we get, obviously the Force plays a big part, right? I mean, that it is the essence of Star Wars, is an essence of Star Wars, right? But I think you could easily tell maybe even a more compelling story that's equally as believable, if not more believable. Like, okay, maybe the assault on the first Death Star fails because Luke's not there, or he's there, but he's not a Jedi because the Force doesn't exist, and so they don't blow it up like they would have ultimately done it, right? Like they're able to destroy the second Death Star with a massive Imperial fleet outside of it without the Force. So I'm not convinced that it needs to be there. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. To me, even as an adult, like I find myself a little bored by some of this. You know what, Liam? You know what my favorite Force sort of conversation is of all the slow moments that you get in the middle of all the movies, kind of in between, right before the climax, is Yoda and Luke on Ahch-To, when he talks about the sacred texts after he burns them and stuff like that. I think that's the
sacred texts.
Yeah. Anyway,
you said that was one of your favorite moments?
It is, involving the Force, because it shows that Yoda, whether he got it at the time, let's say maybe he didn't get it in Revenge of the Sith, I don't know. I suspect he did, but he was just one Grandmaster, right, of two, I think, at the time, on a whole council of other masters. But, it shows, again, the form over function, and he seems to get that it's not the point. Right, like there's nothing in those books that are actually all that important. Like if your heart's in the right place and you understand good from bad, like you got everything you need from the books. Like it's more practical instruction that you need.
I always assumed they were like history and philosophy texts as well.
Right? Yeah, they must be. You have to assume for sure. Yep.
Are you guys as philosophizers? Are you familiar with that Buddhist idea of emptiness? That nothing is inherently what it is, it's only what you think it, it's what you project onto it that makes it good or bad. I feel like that's what those books would have been, is this big explanation of nothing is inherently good or evil, it's how you're perceiving it. And all of those things just become, it's not so black and white. And I feel like that's maybe what the Jedi become over time, is that this is good, this is evil, and that's the end of it. There's a hard line, and then does that make sense? Sorry,
I like that hard line though.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars is the story of good and evil, and it's like the hero's journey. Lord of the Rings, I was having a conversation with my brother about this the other day, but I feel like in pop culture now, there's so many morally great characters, and they're what's becoming popular, that when you have the classic good guy versus bad guy story, it's kind of refreshing. And I don't mind I think that the Jedi were good, but they were just, they were fallible. They became weaker with time. And the Sith have always been bad, and it seems like the original idea for Star Wars, and I buy it.
Mm. It's classic story.
All right, Liam, what do you got?
I'm gonna let you guys choose between my last two. Because one of them is a little bit more. So the first one is that stormtroopers actually have really good aim.
Not a hot take. That's been demonstrated on YouTube. No, yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole YouTube analysis that when stormtroopers are not shooting at any of the heroes, they have immaculate aim, so you just chalk it up to plot armor, right? So, yeah.
Well, they were meant to let the heroes escape in Episode 4.
Agreed.
It was impressive that they were able to shoot them and miss them so
much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you'll see what you've brought upon yourself. The Rise of Skywalker was the best out of the sequels.
I agree with that too, but I'll have that conversation. That's fine.
Okay.
I don't know, Andrew. Do you think that's a hot take, or?
I mean.
All right. There's some discussion here, at least.
All right, go for it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. The Force Awakens on the surface is the most enjoyable one, until you realize that The Force Awakens just set The Last Jedi up to be in a bad place from the get-go, especially Luke. And then from there, The Rise of Skywalker just tries to fix all of the problems that the first two had. And obviously, that makes it weird at times. A lot of the nitpicks that people had with the movie, they fly now, it's okay, they had never seen stormtroopers fly. So yes, they fly now is perfectly reasonable. They didn't know that stormtroopers flew. Somehow Palpatine returned. It's the writers could have written, somehow Palpatine returned, we think he might have cloned himself. When I watched the movie, I thought it was obvious that Palpatine cloned himself, because there were cloning vats of multiple Snokes in the beginning of the movie as it panned around Exegol, and I was okay, this Palpatine says, I have died before. It's he cloned himself. This somehow was just for Resistance. They were like, and I think that there's a lot of stuff like that that people nitpick at. Obviously, there's some bad things like I'm the spy. It's like, okay, like, come on, Hux, really? But I really didn't like the first two movies, and I tried to fix some of the problems that I had with them. So for that reason, I like it the best, and I just think it's kind of fun. I don't know.
Andrea, go ahead, because you seem to agree the least. So.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of any of the most recent trilogy. Like, I thought they were just like fun movies, and that was kind of all I thought of them. Like, my heart belongs to Rogue One, like, which is not really a sequel, but like that's number one. I think that's the best movie, like the best Star Wars movie, like hands down, including the original trilogy, which I know is going to hurt so many people. or
you guys have funny ways of saying Episode 3.
So, but yeah, Rogue One is that one is, I think, peak Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, disagree.
The Rise
what about you, Matt?
Skywalker. Yeah, let's think about this. I agree with everything you said. Like, people tend to, and it's easy to do, right, with anything, not just with Star Wars. You latch on to one or two stupid things, or things that maybe seemingly are stupid. But you and I, Liam, actually talked about this the other day. Like, you have to suspend a whole ton of disbelief to enjoy Star Wars. There's lots of fantastical elements in Star Wars that you have to suspend disbelief to enjoy. Right, and there's lots of things that even aren't necessarily fantastical, but just improbable. I do think they fly now line is stupid. He's just like, Finn was a stormtrooper. Like, he never once in his entire tenure as a First Order stormtrooper saw a jet trooper. Like, okay, maybe. But
we worked at sanitation or something, right?
Which, another thing is, like, how the hell do you do sanitation in stormtrooper armor? Like, you can't do anything in stormtrooper armor, but that's besides the point. But I agree. Well, I do think the line, if you overanalyze it, might be stupid, but like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter whether you've seen it before or not, or maybe, it's a moment of levity for the audience. Like, maybe it's a moment of levity for the characters too. Like, in their adventures fighting the First Order, Finn and Poe had never seen a jet trooper before. So even if Finn might have reasonably been exposed to them before, like, haha, right? They fly now. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make the movie bad. Like all of these movies have dumb, corny humor in them. Like, it can't be, and it's been that way since inception. So I think pointing to stupid things, like, okay, somehow Palpatine returned, like, he was cloned, right? Like, and they give you all of those hints, and I'm learning today that you're good at doing voices. I have no idea, but you're actually you pulled out a few tonight, and they're all pretty good.
I take requests.
Okay.
There's a commission though. So.
I'm gonna get you to do a half-price cameo for me one day. I think, the movie's not perfect. None of the sequels are, but I like them, and I think the nitpicks are stupid, and they're maybe a sign of people who just don't have a high degree of media literacy.
I think that everybody should have just been like me and played the Fortnite event.
Right.
Come on, guys. It was all explained in Fortnite. Come on. What are you guys doing?
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you know what? He returned somehow. Who cares?
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that done, then we also, in the last week or so, have solicited the listeners, right, for their Star Wars hot takes. I don't think we're going to get to all of them necessarily. What are you doing to me?
The listeners.
Oh, I was like, why is he pointing at me like that? Okay, got you. Fair enough. We have solicited the users for their Star Wars hot takes. We got a few. I don't know if we'll cover all of them, but let's just take a peek through some of them. Phil says he has 3 here. So one, he says, is the Book of Boba Fett was good, not perfect, but undeserving of the hate. I agree. I don't hate the Book of Boba Fett at all, actually. I think this goes back to people being obsessed with legends. Like, Boba Fett was this ultimate tough guy, and people didn't like seeing him as anything but that. But I don't think that made the show bad. I don't think that's a hot take for me, Phil. Phil also says The Last Jedi was good, not perfect, but undeserving of the hate. I mean, I know you don't love it, but I don't hate that movie either, honestly.
Phil, you're taking it too far. I agree with the first one.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to hate The Last Jedi, and again, it's another thing, it's just one of those stupid things that Star Wars has, and there's plenty of stupid things Star Wars has. Maybe Leia floating through space. But I mean, again, I think most of The Last Jedi hate, most of it is from people who were just upset that Luke Skywalker did not grow up to be the person they thought he would. And that's a creative choice. That's not necessarily a bad story, I would say. He says, last one from Phil. This one's another hot take. This one's a hot take, I think, for most people. The Acolyte was incredible. Incredible, in his words. It gave Star Wars fans everything they have been asking for. Sith and Jedi going hard at full power, a mature story, and real visceral stakes. The influencers, in quotes, who tore it down were just mad that in this incredible piece of Star Wars, the cast was heavily people of color and the romance was queer. That's Phil's opinion. I think, regardless of whether you think The Acolyte is incredible or not, and I know, Liam, you do not, I also wouldn't say it's incredible. I do agree that this show got a lot of hate for its cast and all sorts of issues with diversity here and the LGBTQ community. I would agree with that. You want to talk about why it's not incredible, though?
I'll talk about what I didn't block out.
Sure, yeah.
I don't remember the actors too well. I didn't feel like super strongly about them one way or the other. Like the cast they just seemed fine to me. One thing that I'll really praise the show for is the lightsaber duels. They were really good and really strong and brutal. Yeah, there were a few moments where spoilers. Chimera snapped. I think he snapped Nord's neck, and then he stabbed Jecki 3 times. Right?
That's good. Yeah.
And I was just like, wow.
I mean, I think Chimera is the best bad guy that Star Wars has come out with in decades.
Oh yeah. I agree. I think a lot of that is because we really don't know much about him at all.
Sure.
Like, I think the more you know about a bad guy, the more that person becomes more human. And so to know less about him is almost like more intimidating. Yeah, I just had some problems with just the plot, some of the dialogue. I was talking to my mom the other day, and I mentioned something exposition. She goes, "What's exposition?" I go, "So in the beginning of the Acolyte, Yord boards the ship with Osha, and he's reading off his data tablet, and he's just like, 'Your name is Osha. You were born this many years ago. You did the,' and he's just like telling the audience. He's telling it to Osha, but he's telling the audience her entire life story."
He's
and
the
I was
audience
like,
perspective character there. Yeah,
I know, and I was like, okay, like that's too much position. Just for example,
No, that's fair. I think my main gripe with the Acolyte, I can get behind all of it, and I could write that off. Like, I agree. I'd love to be shown and not told necessarily, but I think the cost of the Acolyte, and it didn't come out of my pocket, so it's not my problem. Like, it's just staggering. That show looks cheap to me.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
I think that show just looks cheap. I think the sets all look very claustrophobic. Unlike do a plug for Andor here, where they built this huge, they built the Gorman Plaza, like it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And it shows. It feels very open air, very much like the center of a city. Whereas the Acolyte, it feels more like a fan film. Everything is in these kind of cramped quarters because either they CGI in the background or just didn't want to build the props to build out the sets or whatever. But I'm not sure where they spent all their money on that, because it was mostly kind of no-name actors. People will probably shit on me for that, but
I mean,
who cares about most of them?
I'll say this: I just looked it up. It had a final budget of, according to Google AI, according to Wikipedia, $230.1 million. The initial budget was supposed to be $180 million. For reference, Dune 2 was $190 million. That was a whole 3-hour movie. Amazing visual. I don't love those movies, but amazing visuals.
Yeah.
And so I agree with what you're saying about cost and what came out of it, visuals wise.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on. We have 3 more. These probably won't be so long. This is from Eric Spader. I don't mind the re-releases / special editions. They were done by the creator himself, so if that's what he wanted to do to his movies, then who am I to argue? I agree with the sentiment. They're his movies, to do whatever the hell he wants with them, right? And again, why should I think that I'm better than a better storyteller than the richest man in all of show business, right? George Lucas himself. However, I will say, as a counterpoint to Eric, I think George Lucas is not great. I think he tinkers too much to his own detriment, and I think I don't necessarily think he's. I think the best movies that he did were, and I love A New Hope. I mean, it's classic. It's probably my favorite, factoring in nostalgia. But I think it's hard to argue that Empire Strikes Back is not better than A New Hope, and the reason was because he had outside influence helping him make a better movie, and somebody told him no, and there was pushback, and it wasn't just the George show.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. The special editions are just, I don't know. I would take the special editions over the original. They're just easier to watch. Obviously, the really bad Tatooine CGI in episode 4 is a little bit hard on the eyes, and Greedo shooting first just a little bit like, okay, yeah, sure.
I do think that's the worst addition to all of, because I want Han to be like this scoundrel that gets redeemed.
Yeah, also having a blaster pointed at your chest is enough reason to shoot someone else. It's like not like a bad guy thing to do, but yeah. So I don't know. I can go either way. If someone says that they prefer one thing over another, I'm not gonna. I don't have any really hard feelings about it.
I'm perfectly fine with the special editions. I mean, I haven't seen the theatrical releases since I got rid of my VHS player, or my parents got rid of their VHS player like 30 years ago, probably at this point, right? Like 25 plus years ago. Whenever the special editions came out, 98, 7, 6, something like that. When they were coming out. Okay, so we have Alex Alstrom here. I believe he's from the Florida Garrison. Sorry if I'm butchering your last name. Ben Quadanera should have won the Boon to Eve Classic. It was the Force that made him have engine trouble, leading to his loss.
So that's actually entirely true. And tinfoil hat. No, that's great. That's hilarious.
It's funny, but I
talk to Alex a lot, and
yeah, he's in our Discord a lot. I know.
Yes, that's an incredible one.
It's funny though, for sure. And then last but not least, we'll wrap it up with this one. John Stark says, "Hot take: First Order stormtroopers look cool."
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I still prefer the classic. I mean, it's the thing that I've been looking at my whole life, and there's probably some biases there. But I think they look cool. I think they look like the next likely progression of the Stormtrooper armor. Like, I have no problem with that. Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to point at them and say they look too generic sci-fi, but they also still do look Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Like they're not unreasonable. They look smoother, like sleeker than I guess what we're used to most of the time, but
Well, what we're used to is sculpted by a bunch of drunk dudes on like a low budget film in the 70s. It's like, okay. Like,
yeah.
They do look a little bit like the Peacekeepers in the Hunger Games series, though. I think like it's
that's true.
They kind of conflate those two almost, but I think they look cool. Why not?
I mean, I can't really think of a single Star Wars costume where I'm like, that sucks,
No, not at all. Except for Darth Revan. But,
I don't even know who that is.
All right, we've been rambling for over an hour here, so I think we're good to cut it off here. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in and hanging out with us through our hot takes. Definitely, do the like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell. Let us know what you think about our hot takes and our opinions on each other's hot takes. And
I know it's not easy to listen to Matt's hot takes, guys. So thanks for doing that.
I'm the only one who actually brought hot takes. Everybody else was like very agreeable. So we look forward to seeing you all next time, and definitely keep in touch through social media and come out and see us at an event. Come support us. We support some great charities. that's what really this is all about. But we thought we would just take a little hiatus here, talking about costuming, do something a little more fun today. But all right, thank you all very much. Take care.